An interest in flying usually comes in your teenage years, but for Gerald Loyd, born May 28, 1947 in McGee, Arkansas, a curiosity for flying came at a very, very early age.
It's one of my earliest memories. I can remember sitting in my front yard and a Cub flew over real low and slow, and I was sitting there on the ground and looked up and I could see the pilot in there, and I was amazed. I mean, I've been crazy about airplanes ever since. I mean, that's one of my earliest memories.
This early memory and curiosity lasted a lifetime. Gerald's family moved to Dumas when he was 6. By the time he was in his early teens, he knew he wanted flying to be part of his future, and every chance he got, he would fly.
My parents wanted me to go to military school, and they kept showing me brochures on schools, and I didn't want to go to any of them. And then one day my mother had left a brochure laying on the table for Castle Heights Military Academy, and I noticed there was a picture of cadets flying airplanes. And so I picked that up, started going through it. And I said, okay, Mama, if you want me to go, this is the only school I'll go to if I can take flying lessons.
At just 16, he soloed in an Aranca Champion after just 6 hours flight instruction. The day after his 17th birthday, he passed his private pilot check in a Cessna 172. And over the next 3 years, he graduated high school, attended college at Mississippi State, and amassed 300 hours of flight time. In 1967, at age 19, Gerald joined the Army and began helicopter training at Fort Walters Training Center near Fort Worth, Texas. His first training was in Hughes TH-55s. He transferred to Fort Rucker in Alabama in 1968 for advanced training and was in the top 10% of the class and received gunship training. He graduated in 1968 as a W-1 warrant officer. He received his commercial helicopter pilot's license. The Vietnam War was at a peak, and Gerald arrived in Vietnam July 4th, 1968. He was just 21 years old. He was assigned to the 1st Aviation Battalion, 1st Infantry Division, based at Phu Loy. He flew 1,432 combat missions in Hueys, a record for the 1st Division. When he was supposed to take a rest and be grounded for excess combat missions, he found a way to fill his time by flying assault missions, even though he was supposed to be grounded. Loyd was one of only 2 pilots who had air assault experience. Gerald helped develop a training plan and trained other pilots in his unit. The steel-nerved youngster from the Arkansas Delta recalled some close calls under fire, especially in one rescue mission going in under heavy fire with a Cobra gunship giving support.
Started putting the brakes on hard, just stood that old Huey on its tail, and I was actually at that point I was looking through my chin bubble and putting on the brakes so hard, and I saw the gap in the trees and went right through there, and there they were in the bomb crater. I sat down beside it, and as I was going through that gap in the trees, Captain Wood came by me in that Cobra, and I don't know, he may have been doing 200 knots. He was right down in there with me and punching out rockets, just pairs of rockets, and his miniguns were just hammering away at the tree line. And you can't imagine how noisy it is with all that going on. And the smells of the explosive powder and everything. We started drawing fire from the tree line on our right side, and so I started yelling for Captain Wood to bring it in closer because I could see his rockets were hitting behind the enemy. So the enemy was between me and his rockets. So he said, I can't do it. We're as close as the rules will let us shoot to you. I said a few foul words and told him to do it anyway, which he did. And the VC, you could see him jumping up and running when he did. And I saw one, I think, that was holding his AK-47 over his shoulder like this, running, just shooting at the Cobras. He and his wingman were making a racetrack pattern, keeping constant fire on them. And it took us a little while to load the wounded. Usually on a hot lerp extraction, we'll just hit the ground and then pull, pitch, and go. and they know they better be in it, in the helicopter, because we're a fat target, and they don't want to miss the ride. Well, we had to sit and wait for them to get the wounded up out of the bomb crater and into the helicopter. And finally, my door gunner yelled that we were ready, and we pulled pitch and got out of there.
Gerald had 2 of his helicopters shot full of holes, but survived.
I got 2 helicopters shot up, and of course they were very exciting too. There's something that'll kind of wake you up when you get shot at, and there's no good feeling like the good feeling you have when you get shot at and missed. So
Gerald gets a lump in his throat when he remembers his fellow pilots who didn't make it back. Gerald was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, 24 air medals, 2 air medals with a V device for valor, the Bronze Star, the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry, and many other flying awards while serving in Vietnam. Gerald returned to the U.S. in July 1969 and was again back at Fort Walters in Texas. He used his GI Bill to earn his civilian instrument rating, multi-engine rating, commercial rating, and rotary wing endorsement. It was in Texas in 1970 they met his future wife, Marion Sue Danner, a home economics teacher, whom a friend had introduced him to on a blind date. Gerald and Marion married in 1971, and they were naturals together. She was a military brat and came from a family of military pilots and war veterans. When his military service ended, Gerald returned home to Dumas and went to work in the family farm equipment business. He later became a commodities broker. One year, while the town of Dumas was trying to keep an industry from moving away from Dumas, the mayor sought Gerald's help in getting an airport for the town. Gerald got fellow pilots to help, and together they got FAA funding for the Dumas Airport and a 3,000-foot runway, and many other aviation support facilities in the Arkansas and Mississippi Delta region. Gerald even saw to it that the Dumas Airport Commission was filled with pilots, ensuring that the pilots had a vested interest in a successful future airport. Gerald served as chairman of the Airport Commission for 24 years and oversaw vast improvements, including the extension of the runway to 5,000 feet. In the late 80s, Gerald built an RV-4 airplane in his backyard. The whole family took part, Mama, the boys, and the girl. They all helped. He still flies the plane today. Gerald was the motivating force in a group called Mid-South RV-8ers who helped train to fly in formation. Gerald had thousands of hours of formation flying and earned his formation flying card and flight lead card. In addition, Gerald has helped hundreds of pilots earn formation flying cards and eventually formed the Bulldog Flight Formation Team, and they recently gained attention for skywriting hearts in the skies above Arkansas cities during the pandemic. The group developed stunning formation flying routines and have performed at air shows all over the country. They've long been a part of flyovers before Razorback football games, and that led the Bulldogs to fly over numerous sporting events, including NASCAR events nationwide. One event with a 49-plane formation over a Kansas City Chiefs game earned a Guinness Book of World Records title for the largest civilian formation flying. That's Gerald up there in the middle of that amazing formation. Gerald Loyd has spent over 58 years helping others get their dreams in the air and has volunteered countless hours to help other pilots and groups achieve their goals. He recently received the Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award for over 50 consecutive years of continuous flying without incident or violation. He amassed over 8,000 flight hours, including 1,432 combat hours in Vietnam. Except for the military time, Gerald Loyd has always made the Arkansas Delta his home. He still lives in Dumas. His son Rob is an Army Lieutenant Colonel, his son Chris is an insurance executive, and daughter Tara is an occupational therapist. The little boy in the yard watching that cub fly over low grew into a steel-nerved, humble, helpful, and caring man who blazed his way into aviation history and the Arkansas Aviation Hall of Fame.